Good afternoon. Welcome to Business 360, your complete view of the stories driving business, markets, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin, and this is the Bilyonaryo News Channel. The death toll from the Mindanao earthquake climbs to almost 40, while big businesses and small ones remain shuttered. We get live scenes from General Santos City. Underemployment jumps to a 3-year high. Some cost pressures are easing, but is that enough to get businesses moving towards growth again? We speak with Bryan Ang of the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And Lopez ceasefire no more? Gabby Lopez's camp makes another statement against first-gen CEO Federico Lopez. The scale of the Mindanao earthquake is still coming into view, with the death toll climbing, and with more businesses dealing with damage and disruption. Jill Sebandal is reporting from General Santos City. Jill, could you tell us what you're seeing?
Apa, following the magnitude 7.8 earthquake that struck regions 9, 11, and 12, a significant numbers of businesses and establishments have been affected. In fact, we are here today in General Santos City, wherein a commercial building has collapsed, and according to the City Command Office or City Command Center, 2 individuals remained missing as search and retrieval operations continues and affected in this area. And in Davao City, Apa, 2 of the condominiums and several commercial buildings sustained minor damage. Meanwhile, partial damage to businesses-related structures was reported in Davao del Sur, Davao Occidental, Davao del Norte, Davao de Oro, Sarangani, South Cotabato, and Cotabato. Affected structures include shopping malls, hotels, public markets, gyms, commercial buildings, and school facilities. Due to the impact of the earthquake, classes in 182 schools and operations in 123 places have been suspended. Authorities report that a total of 88,000 individuals or 19,529 families have been affected by the disaster. At the present, the death toll has risen to 37, with 479 affected injuries and 4 others still missing. Search, rescue, and relief operations remain the top priority as authorities continue to assess the full extent the damage across the affected areas. Apa.
Jill, I see people behind you. Where are you exactly?
We are here at Kalumpang, General Santos City, Apa, wherein the people at my back, or the men in the uniform at the back, is currently on the task to look for those 2 still individuals that are missing right now, Apa. And kakarating nga lang ng isang backhoe to help them retrieve those still missing persons, Apa.
Okay, well, thank you for the update, Jill Sebandal. This is really sad news from General Santos City. The earthquake hits the country's tuna export industry. Major tuna supplier Alliance Select is temporarily suspending operations at its General Santos City facility after sustaining damage. Alliance Select expects operations to resume next week. General Santos is the tuna capital of the Philippines, and the earthquake could hurt the country's tuna exports. More Filipinos found jobs in April, but many are still struggling to earn enough, especially in a tougher economy. Chesulit has the details.
Results of the latest labor force survey show underemployment surged in April 2026. This means more employed Filipinos want to have additional hours of work in their present job or to have an additional job. Some may even want a new job with longer hours of work. Based on data from the Philippine Statistics Authority, 7.4 million working Filipinos are considered underemployed. This is higher than last year's roughly 7.1 million individuals. PSA National Statistician and Undersecretary Claire Dennis Mapa says they observed rampant underemployment sentiments among workers from the transportation, manufacturing, and accommodation sectors. Mapa adds jeepney drivers, along with transport network vehicle services riders, have also expressed desire to work additional hours due to lower income amid high fuel prices caused by the Middle East crisis.
Yung portion sa kanila ay hindi nga parang full time na gusto nila kasi mayroon din tayong pagtaas sa underemployed on the same sector. Yung kita, yun yung napektuhan as reflected by the underemployment numbers in transportation and storage.
Meanwhile, more Filipinos were jobless in April compared to the same period last year. The number of unemployed Filipinos reached 2.41 million in April 2026, equivalent to an unemployment rate of 4.7%. This is higher than the 2.06 million or 4.1% recorded in April 2025. But compared to January 2026, the labor market showed some improvement, with unemployment down from 2.96 million or 5.8%. By age group, the year-on-year increase was driven mainly by higher unemployment among Filipinos aged 25 to 34 and 15 to 24. Mapa says one of the key reasons behind this is that more Filipinos were looking for work but could not find jobs. Mapa also says more youth joining the labor force were still waiting for the results of their job applications.
Number of unemployed in April who are considered as first-time job seekers or new labor force entrants, ito ay umaabot sa mga 240,000.
On a quarter-on-quarter basis, however, there was improvement among the youth. For the 15 to 24 age group, the number of unemployed went down as more young Filipinos were counted among those who joined the workforce. Meanwhile, the wholesale and retail trade industry recorded the biggest drop in employment, with a decrement of around 450,000 workers. Employment also declined in the agriculture and aquaculture sectors, reflecting weaker business activity. Mapa adds the rising costs of goods and services caused by the fuel crisis may have also impacted their sales and income, resulting in less opportunities for expanding their workforce. For Business 360, Che Sulit, Bilyonaryo News Channel.
In a statement, the Department of Economy, Planning and Development has pledged support for workers. DepDev Secretary Arsenio Balisacan says the government will deliver assistance through the Uplift program. He also says in an interview, the interagency El Nino Task Force will be reconvened to help safeguard jobs and livelihoods, particularly in agriculture. Authorities are reviewing security measures in the Senate after Acting Senate President Win Gatchalian said it may be under threat. Hannah T. joins us on the line for the details. Hannah?
Apa, Senator Ping Lacson warns that frustration within the armed services may be growing as the country grapples with political and institutional tensions. This as the veteran former PNP chief raises concerns not just about the security of the Senate. Lacson said information reaching him indicates that while still sketchy and raw, the level of frustration has allegedly reached battalion and regional levels. According to Lacson, members of the armed services are closely monitoring developments in the country's ongoing political crisis, which he said is being driven by a combination of internal and external factors. The remarks come as Acting Senate President Win Gatchalian confirmed that the Senate has also received information about possible security threats targeting the chamber. Gatchalian said the information was relayed by NBI Director Melvin Matibag, prompting Senate leadership to review and strengthen security measures. He said he's set to meet with members of the Senate Executive Committee, including the Office of the Sergeant at Arms, to discuss necessary security adjustments. The disclosure comes amid the continuing leadership standoff inside the Senate, with rival factions claiming legitimacy following the reorganization that installed Gatchalian as acting Senate president. It was on May 11 when Senator Bato de la Rosa surfaced in the Senate, followed by the leadership shakeup that saw Senator Alan Peter Cayetano assume the Senate presidency under his camp. 2 days later, an armed confrontation erupted between NBI operatives and Senate security personnel during an attempt to serve an ICC warrant against de la Rosa. The incident eventually led to the senator's departure from the Senate complex. The warnings come as the Senate prepares for the expected impeachment trial of VP Sara and continues its investigations into the flood control scandal. Back to you, Apa.
Thank you, Hanati, reporting from the Senate. In world news, Iran and Israel have paused their military attacks. This after United States President Donald Trump appealed for them to stop. The two sides have been trading missile and airstrikes since Sunday, keeping the global oil market on edge. Despite the pause, both countries are warning of retaliation if the other side strikes again. Coming up, how can businesses move from survival to growth amid a tougher environment? We get the thoughts of Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry Vice President Bryan Ang next. This is Business 360. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Inflation and unemployment have eased slightly, but prices remain high and underemployment is still elevated. To help us understand how businesses are coping and adapting, we're bringing in Bryan Ang, who is the Vice President for Trade and Industry at the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Welcome to Business 360, Bryan, and happy birthday.
Thank you, Apa. Good afternoon to you and your viewers.
Yeah. Bryan, let's start with what businesses are actually feeling. Inflation has eased slightly. Prices are still high. From PCCI's side, are businesses seeing any real relief or are costs still rising faster than companies can adjust?
Well, if you look at the geopolitical side of things, the war is still ongoing. It is still very fragile. The price of oil is going up and very volatile on a daily basis. So it's very unpredictable. On top of that, the foreign exchange, we have a very weak peso at almost 62 pesos. So inflation definitely is one of the main factors when it comes to operating a business, because most of our companies import raw materials, use fuel, and also import finished goods.
Okay, unemployment, meanwhile, actually eased to 4.7%, but underemployment jumped to 15.2%. That's 7.4 million Filipinos who have work but need more hours or more income. And retail trade alone shed about 450,000 jobs year on year. What's forcing these businesses to cut hours and hold back on hiring?
Well, the retail trade industry to begin with is very cyclical in nature. During the holiday seasons, you will see an increase and spike in employment. But these are usually casual employees. After the holiday season, you will see them immediately drop. Now, you compound this with what is reduced demand from the consumers because of their weakening peso. And now consumers are more wary of spending on non-essentials. They're more in the savings mode and just spending on the essential goods. So if you combine these two factors, it makes sense that unemployment in the retail sector is growing. And not only in the retail sector, Apa, if you look at the construction sector, whenever you have new projects, that's the only time that these construction companies will add hiring casual employees. The same goes for the hospitality and tourism sector. For instance, we are hosting the ASEAN Summit, so most of our hotels and resorts will be full. So you will have an immediate spike in hiring of casual workers. As soon as we end the ASEAN Summit, numbers will drop again.
Power costs are pushing a lot of businesses towards solar just to survive their electricity bills. Now DTI wants mandatory certification on solar panels and batteries, many of which have been already internationally certified. From your members' side, is that protecting us from junk imports or just adding cost and red tape?
You know what's funny, Apa? If DTI or the government really wanted to protect consumers and business owners from hazards of fire and etc., they should first address all these spaghetti electric lines of Meralco, because these are immediate hazards that can endanger lives. Now, when it comes to these solar panels, I don't think it is necessary for the government to regulate it as of now, because this is one of the major mitigating factors for the private sector to combat this hike in fuel prices and electricity prices. I mean, from month to month, if you check your Meralco bill, it's at least up by 20 to 25%. So it's but natural for businesses and consumers to want to install solar panels in their homes and factories. Now, if you add another regulatory line to it, this will just delay the implementation of these solar installations and most likely additional cost, because the installers and the suppliers will just pass on all of these regulatory measures and costs to the consumer.
Many businesses are trying to manage high power costs by shifting to solar or other energy solutions. Are current rules making it easier or harder for companies, especially MSMEs, to bring down their electricity bills?
Well, guess what? If you want to install solar panel today in your factory or home, you already have to apply for barangay clearance, for building permit, for electric permit, and also for the net metering in Meralco. So government today already has several regulatory and permits for the private sector to go through. And these have always been pain points for our MSMEs, whether it be solar or whether for it be just registering a business or renewing their business permits.
Yeah, I'm told that in fact, if your this planned installed solar capacity exceeds a certain threshold, you actually have to register as an independent power producer.
Yes.
Yeah.
But then all of this is just to mitigate the expensive power cost, which government as of now is having a problem to determine. Is it the grid that is inefficient, and then the grid tells us that it's the gencos who cannot provide sufficient power. So what are we left to do? I mean, in the Visayas, they have rotating brownouts, and the factories there, the semiconductors and electronic assemblers are already complaining. How can you even, if you cannot even give us stable power, how can you even want to regulate our solar panels just to help ease the burden?
Yeah. On logistics, PCCI has been pushing to cut the empty container storage allowance from 90 days to 60 to unclog the ports. For a business waiting on stock or shipping out, what does a clogged port actually cost in real terms? And is anyone in the government listening to that 60-day ask?
Actually, it's more than just a 60-day ask. The commercial transport sector has been hit very hard, not just by this fuel crisis. APA, the government has been giving subsidy to the public transport sector, but zero subsidy to the commercial transport sector. So they had to survive this on their own. Number two, they are being charged by international shipping lines amounts of over 100,000 pesos per container on their destination charges, purely because shipping lines are not regulated by our government. Secondly, after delivering these containers when they are empty, there is no container yard for them to return it to. And once they are not able to return this, the ports are charging them storage fees and detention fees, all of which are being passed on to the importer and later on will be passed on to the consumer. So again, inflationary. So our call for government is actually to appoint a regulating agency for these international shipping lines, so that number one, they cannot just indiscriminately charge all of these
destination fees.
And at the same time, they cannot just charge these detention fees, because it is themselves who do not have sufficient container yard for the storage of these empty containers. They should not pass this on to the private sector. And we have heard that a joint administrative order is already being drafted by a multi-agency of DOF, DTI, and DOTR. And we hope that a single agency will be allowed to implement this and regulate, so that this port congestion issue can be solved once and for all.
Okay. Let's move to infrastructure spending, which slowed partly because of the flood control mess. The president is now wanting to ramp spending up as a solution to the, to the low GDP growth, because infrastructure spending has a direct effect on GDP growth. So from PCCI's side, can government realistically restart this infra pipeline that quickly, like within this semester?
Government is trying their best to bid out as many infrastructures as they can, whether it be the DBWH for the roads and bridges, the farm-to-market roads of the Department of Agriculture, or the school rehabilitation of these school buildings by the Department of Education. Some problems persist, however. If you want to attract legitimate contractors to join these biddings, they are very hesitant right now because, number one, there has been an increase in the cost of materials, whether it be in steel or in paint, that has not been reflected yet in the bid documents. So whenever you ask for a price adjustment or change order, it is very difficult to negotiate with government when it comes to this because of the limitations on flexibility of the procurement law. But when these contractors go to the private sector, it's easier to negotiate with the contract owner or the building owner if you want any price adjustments. Secondly, existing contractors for old projects are having difficulty collecting progress billing. It seems that a lot of the signing authorities are having cold feet because precisely of this flood control scandal where you've seen regional directors, district engineers all going to jail. Even a USEC committed suicide. And so you cannot blame them that they are taking extra measures before they sign any of these invoices and releases of payment. So from the contractor side, how can I keep using my money and continuing the project if you're not paying me? So these are big deterrents to continue public infrastructure spending. Now, my suggestion, APA, is for the government to consider ODA projects where funding is coming from the foreign source so that contractors in the first place are already pre-screened by these multinational or international lending agencies.
Well, yeah, okay, that's one thing, but I suppose there are 2 points I'd like to make about that. Number one, even before the flood control scandal, we noticed that the major guys, the major infrastructure players in this town, and I'm talking DMCI, Megawide, whoever, FF Cruz, these guys were not bidding on these projects because
they will not.
They said they didn't want to play the corruption game.
The game.
Basically.
Yes.
I mean, they told us this privately. We need to fix that process so that it's very transparent and defensible, I think.
Correct. Actually, Apa, yesterday we were just with the Philippine Constructor Association and the DPWH trying to form a solution for this. Maybe if you create a green lane for legitimate contractors where you waive pre-eligibility, pre-qualification requirements, maybe this will entice them to join public infrastructure biddings. And at the same time, maybe you can give them a green lane also when it comes to collecting progress billing. So that they would rather join government projects rather than these private endeavors.
Yeah, okay. And then I guess the second thing is about, you mentioned ODA funding. And
Yes.
we saw a prime example in this is the Metro Manila subway project that's supposedly funded entirely by Japan. No?
Yeah.
Actually, that's not the truth at all. There is a local, counterpart funding. The government has to buy the right of way, and that's the major component. And one of the reasons for delay is precisely this right of way, because the budget to buy the right of way was diverted to the flood control projects. So, the whole issue of let's use ODA, it's not that quick a solution.
Actually, the problem is not ODA. The problem is the realignment of the budget.
Yeah.
Why will you even allow that?
Yeah, exactly.
Diba?
All right.
And actually, in general, before you sign a loan agreement with a foreign agency, you should have to have that local counterpart funding ready and in escrow so that you cannot reuse it or repurpose it. I don't know what magic was made for this to be done.
Yeah, well, it all happened in the BICAM.
That's sad. That's sad. Because, the Mega Manila project alone generated over 10,000 new jobs for the Philippines, high-paying jobs.
Yeah. Okay. We're also seeing political tension in the Senate and around the impeachment process. Do your investors and business leaders care? Are they worried about this, or are they just trying to tune out the political noise and keep building business? Or is it making people sit on their expansion plans too?
Well, on the optics side, for the headlines in the foreign media is always showing our Senate in a very bad light. And it shows that you have a Senate that has two leaders. So how can you have a company with two CEOs pulling you in two different directions? So from the optics, it's very bad for the Philippines. But for businesses, especially established local businessmen, we know that this is par for the course. Democracy in the Philippines always entails drama, always entails some level of entertainment. And we just hope that we can see through this noise and realize that Philippines is ready for business and we should continue investing in it.
Yeah. We just hosted Vietnamese President To Lam, and we elevated our ties with Vietnam, who is also one of our main competitors for the same manufacturing investments. And they seem to be more competitive than us. They have lower power prices and lower labor costs. What do you think Vietnam is doing well that we can learn from, and where do we still need to catch up to compete for those factories?
Well, Vietnam is focused on two things: manufacturing for export and inviting foreign direct investments.
Yeah.
They have over 400 special economic zones in Vietnam. They have successfully invited the Foxcons, the LGs, the Samsungs, even the Nikes. When it comes to export of manufacturing exports, they give heavy subsidies to their industries when it comes to electricity, fuel, and labor costs in Vietnam is half of that of China. So you can see how serious they are when it comes to protecting industries.
Yeah.
And Apa, are you aware that ube is now like the big rock star in Philippine export right now?
Yeah.
So the Philippines is most known for ube, but now Vietnam is catching up. They know that the Philippines cannot produce enough ube to supply the global demand, and they are consolidating their farmers and their assembly plants to produce ube also.
Yeah, apparently it's the same story with...
work this out properly, ube might even become Vietnam's primary export rather than ours.
Yeah, apparently this is also happening with coconut. We had a big surge, according to Secretary Roque, in coconut exports, but Vietnam and Thailand are our two main competitors there.
You will notice that Vietnam is never satisfied. They have cornered the rice market. They have cornered the cement market. Now they want ube. Now they're also aggressively entering the EV market space. You will see these green taxis all over Metro Manila. These are all made in Vietnam, and you see tens of thousands of them entering our country.
Yeah, made and designed in Vietnam, huh?
Purely made and designed in Vietnam, and they hire all in-house drivers.
Yeah. Okay. The president came home from Japan with around 3.4 billion pesos in pledges and Japanese interest in semiconductors and shipbuilding. But right now, these are just pledges, right? What's your honest read on whether this one lands, given our track record of pledges that quietly evaporate?
To transform these pledges into honest-to-goodness manufacturing sites, first and foremost, you will need to secure uninterruptible power supply, because these hyperscale data centers that are AI-enabled will need an average or a minimum of 100 megawatts of uninterrupted power. Second, you will need infrastructure and logistics. Your road network from your assembly plant to the port to be uninterrupted. You cannot afford port congestion. So these are two major factors that first needs to be addressed before we can actually invite and attract these legitimate investors to come to the Philippines. You cannot just tell them, oh, you had a pledge, please come in. Are we ready? Diba?
Yeah, I like your focus on those two areas, no? Because you're totally right. And actually, the president's infrastructure drive is supposed to address those factory-to-port roads, no? But the ports themselves really need so much more improvement.
You will see that port congestion is a problem of almost every administration. You will see that a lot of our industries in the Visayas region are complaining. Why do we still have rotating brownouts? So these two issues are not yet addressed by government. How can they address these big businesses that want to come in?
Yeah. Okay. Well, hopefully they're listening.
I'm sure they're listening and they're trying their best.
Yeah.
But these take time because these are systemic problems.
Okay. Thank you, Bryan Ang, for joining us today and sharing your insights.
Thank you, Apa.
We're taking a quick break. Stay with us. Business 360. We'll be right back.
Every peso tells a story, where it goes, and why it matters. We break down the way you spend, save, and decide. From rising prices to everyday choices, connect the headlines to your wallet.
I'm Robert Tan. Here we uncover the stories and strategies of how money really moves.
Follow the money. Weekdays 10 a.m. only on Bilyonaryo News Channel.
May iba pala ang mga public health expert.
Bago pa man dumating sa Amerika,
Crowds continue to grow, so will
here in Altadena, the real estate market.
hope you have a wonderful, magical.
Para sa agenda, reporting from Houston, Texas,
Bilyonaryo News Channel.
From the United States to Canada's biggest stories, from business and politics to stories shaping communities across North America. BNC is on the ground, bringing stories that matter. Wherever news happens, we are everywhere.
Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Shots fired. A ceasefire in the Lopez family boardroom dispute appears to have collapsed. The camp of former ABS-CBN chairman Eugenio Gabby Lopez III has issued a new statement against his cousin, first-gen CEO Federico Lopez, over a 75 billion peso energy transaction. The group claims Piqui agreed to pay Enrique Razon Jr.'s prime infrastructure 50 billion pesos as a transaction premium and another 25 billion pesos as construction equity. Gabby's camp said it only recently discovered the premium through internal board documents. The group also alleges the deal carries so-called poison pills, which it says could cost First Gen about 24 billion pesos and trigger defaults across sister companies if Piqui is removed from his executive role. The statement also claims Piqui reduced First Gen's stake in the hydropower asset from 40 to 33%, lowering the capital commitment to almost 62 billion pesos. Under this restructured amount, Gabby's camp claims Prime needs to inject only 625 million pesos to complete the project by 2030, while retaining 67% of the profits. Gabby's camp is now asking the Philippine Stock Exchange and the Securities and Exchange Commission to require full disclosure from First Gen. The group says its requests for documents on both the original and restructured transactions have gone unanswered. First Gen has not yet responded publicly to the latest allegations. Renting in the property business is gaining ground as a more financially efficient choice for many Filipinos, especially among young adults renting for the first time. On BNC's Follow the Money, property consultant David Lee Chu suggested that renting for the next 5 to 10 years as part of a broader wealth-building strategy. But while this preference is also growing among Gen Z and millennials, he says it does not fundamentally reshape the country's real estate market.
I think that's more cultural thing for the Gen Z millennials. You know, you just want to
slap them around sometimes because they want to do work from home, they want to get freebies, they want to do shortcuts.
Are they changing the way the real estate industry is working right now?
No, not really. It's their parents. They're able to do this because they are a product of 20 years of a boom that we've never had before. This 20-year boom has created a lot of very maybe spoiled, entitled people who, and this crisis that's coming, that we are in right now, that is brewing, that is growing, is going to remind people that the old way still works. Save up, work very, very hard. If you're young, you got to work very long hours. You got to be smart. Integrity is important.
Lucio Cos Prime Water Infrastructure has won a court order blocking a takeover of the San Jose del Monte Water District in Bulacan. The Regional Trial Court of Las Piñas issued a 20-day TRO, temporary restraining order, halting the city's plan to replace Prime Water with Metro Pacific Water. The case stems from a dispute over a joint venture agreement covering water services in the city. The court said Prime Water has a right to protect its contract while the case is being heard. The ruling comes amid ongoing water supply issues and plans to bring in a new operator. Bilyonaryo Tony Tan Kakyong snaps up Jollibee shares as they trade at their lowest in 13 years. His family's investment vehicle, Hyperdynamic Corporation, bought 185,000 Jollibee shares yesterday. The shares are worth about 24.5 million pesos, with purchase prices ranging from 131 pesos 30 centavos to 133 pesos 50 centavos apiece. Investors have turned cautious on JFC due to weaker profit growth and doubts about its global expansion. The C families, SM Investments and SM Prime Holdings, were among the most active corporate buyers on the stock market yesterday. As other investors sold off, the two firms went bargain hunting, scooping up their own shares at near-decade lows. Together, they spent nearly 148 million pesos on buybacks, and SM Investments repurchased about 72 million pesos worth of shares at prices between 573 and 580 pesos each. SM Prime spent around 75 million pesos buying back shares at just below and slightly above 18 pesos. Ayala Land is buying while the market remains cautious. The Sobel-led property giant repurchased 10 million of its own shares yesterday, spending about 138 million pesos. This as its stock traded near levels last seen in 2010. The latest purchase increased Ayala Land's treasury shares to 2.42 billion, while reducing its outstanding shares to 14.29 billion. The Philippine Stock Exchange Index rebounds on bargain hunting. It went up by more than 1% and settled a little below the 6,000 level as investors bought back into beaten-down stocks. The PSEI also tracked improved sentiment across global markets. Coming up, OpenAI files an IPO as AI companies race to debut on Wall Street. You're watching Business 360. Welcome back to Business 360. I'm Apa Ongpin. Marks & Spencer is coming back to the Philippines, and it's bringing a heavyweight partner. The British retailer has signed a new franchise deal with Indonesian retail giant Mitra Adiperkasa. The first physical stores set to open in Makati by the end of 2026. It's a fast turnaround. Marks & Spencer had shuttered all its local stores back in May, ending a nearly 40-year run under its former partner SSI Group. On Wall Street, ChatGPT maker OpenAI has confirmed it has confidentially filed for an IPO. The company has not yet disclosed the timeline or valuation, but reports say the listing could reach up to $1 trillion. Reports also say the debut that could come as early as September. Wall Street is buzzing ahead of SpaceX's Wall Street debut. And for an analyst, it's the best opportunity to get directly on AI growth. SpaceX is reportedly targeting a valuation of almost $2 trillion and a fixed share price of $135.
This is the best opportunity you've ever gotten to get directly in on AI growth. $75 billion is the biggest IPO of all time. And then the valuation, $1.75 trillion, is no small number to laugh at. But it's just such a unique business, and anything tied to Elon Musk obviously gets a ton of fanfare. And so if you combine it being the biggest, a wild valuation, and Elon Musk and rockets and AI and satellites, what's not to like about it?
The IPO is expected to be priced on June 11 and begin trading on NASDAQ the following day. Wall Street bounces back after last week's brutal tech sell-off. All main indexes closed in the green as chip stocks recovered. Investors were also relieved that Iran and Israel pulled back from attacks. And that's Business 360. We'll keep tracking the moves that matter across markets, policy, and the economy. I'm Apa Ongpin. Thank you for joining us. Keep it here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel.